Yes, for those who imagine that what NINAS is saying is all about theory, now look at the graphic before you. The reason we have had to explain all kinds of concepts as we moved along in the manner we have done, many, including lawyers, did not understand the meaning of constitution. They think it's a booklet. Many did not understand that when we say constitution is a fraud, we're saying that the union is a fraud. Many do not understand when we say the constitution has to be decommissioned for reconfiguration. They do not understand we're saying that Nigeria, as currently defined by the constitution imposed, have to be, rearranged in a manner that could result in dissolution, peaceful dissolution, like Soviet Union dissolved, like Yugoslavia, eventually found itself after, being recalcitrant for a while, that broke into a war. There are 6, 7 countries that, emerged from all of that refusal to listen. Or even closer home, though that's not the best example, the Sudan that became two countries. We're saying that it is possible to have, as the outcome of this 25 years intervention, a proper federation. It is possible to have a confederation. It is possible to come out with independent units of successor sovereign states from the defunct Federation of Nigeria. If anybody is pretending he doesn't understand the meaning of defunct Federation of Nigeria, the Federation died in 1966, the day Murtala Mohammed and co. began to behead other members of that federation, and then go on in 1967, May 27, 1967, fractured, decapitated the 4 regions that were federating and fractured them into 12 states. With the economic assets, economic and other assets and powers of the regions taken over by the illicit federal government that emerged. Illicit, and that is the case till date, illicit in the sense that if our federation collapsed and we went to Aburi to discuss how to refloat it, and we came back and abandoned it, and then began to point guns at people, locking them in, battering their head, beheading the ones that had to be beheaded. When Ken Saro-Wiwa said, no, you beheaded him, and all of that. We don't have a federation, and we therefore cannot have a federal government. And so all of these things have to be, taken apart and explained one after the other, so that we can see that the union is a union of peoples that are federating. And therefore, if you remove the aspect of federating from it, and you lock them in like the British did to us in 1914, it's a union at gunpoint. Credit to Professor Anthony Akinwale, the former Vice Chancellor of Dominican University in Ibadan, because that was how he encapsulated it. So it's a union at gunpoint. Why are flags flying all over Nigeria? Odua Republic here, Biafra Republic there, Ijo refusal to come along there, and everywhere is boiling. What is the problem? What is the problem? Will it go away? Will that problem go away with the meltdown across security, across economy, across the entire social fabric of society is broken down? And so, back to our graphic, what we are explaining right now, so that those who think it's theory, they may say, oh, where are your guns to be able to overtake them? You will see where guns fit in just now, because it is that constitution that defines who can hold the gun and who cannot touch the gun. If that constitution goes down, all things anchored on it, all institutions created by it, including the states as you have them now, including local governments, including the exclusive list as you have them, the 68 items there, because that's where you have arms and ammunition. As that constitution has been defeated, we have a choice to go under a roof, all of us, including government, to go under a roof and discuss what will replace it in an orderly manner, like South Africa did in 1990. We also can continue in our brigandage and refusal to listen until those who own the sovereignties that have been detained, that have been hijacked, go unilateral. And they are perfectly entitled to go unilateral in this matter. Those who talk about treason, there's no treason on the table ahead of the treason of hijacking our sovereignty. And those who swear to defend and uphold that constitution are committing treason against all of us. Those who sit in the National Assembly talking about amendment of a constitution we have not made, they are committing treason against the rest of us. And the owners of the sovereignties that are confiscated by this constitution are entitled to recover their sovereignty, since it is a forgery. The Constitution of 1999, the Constitution of Nigeria, is a forgery, a fraud. You put my signature on a document I've never discussed with you as the authorization for my damnation. You say I'm the one that submitted my land to your union. You say I'm the one that agreed on the terms of the union. Oh, having firmly and solemnly resolved to live in unity together. It's a lie. Then you turn around to say, accordingly, we make and give unto ourselves the following control. These are all lies. So when NINAS says that that union of Nigeria, based on all these lies, go back to the preamble and read all the lies there. That is what we are talking about. There is nothing else that is of any interest to any of us until those lies are resolved. And how do you resolve them? You must identify the owners of the sovereignties that you have confiscated by that constitution. The Yoruba as Yoruba in Yoruba land. The Ijaw as Ijaw in Ijaw land. The Igbo as Igbo in Igbo land. The thief as thief in thief land. The Berom as Berom in Berom land. The Igala as Igala in Igala land. The Edo as Edo in Edo land. That is the only time the Fulani will have to show everybody where their Fulani land is in this entity we call Nigeria. If they cannot, that is when they have to look around and see who they can piggyback on, who they can come to the table with to discuss. Otherwise, what you find is that sovereignty, in case you did not know, Nigeria did not fall from the sky. Nigeria is a union of peoples. If our union agreement had been overtaken by the brigandage of one section and those who join to hold it, to suck the blood of others, then the owners of those sovereignties are at liberty to take back their sovereignty. There is something called self-determination. That right to self-determination is inalienable. It's not something that depends on you agreeing with me. It is something that accrues to me as long as I am a distinct nationality on my census space. I'm not telling you what somebody told me. I'm telling you as an expert in that field of knowledge. I'm telling you as one who have gone to the UN at its highest levels, not at the level of Amina Mohammed Secretariat, people. With the UN at the level of the Security Council, at the level of the Trusteeship Council, at the level of those who have to decide. And nobody's waiting for them to come to organize us. We're only saying that the instruments of the UN that define what has to happen are already clearly spelled out. It is up to us. It's like fundamental human right. If your right is breached, it is up to you to enforce it. If because the right is there, you now fold your arms, they will throw you from prison to prison. But if that right is there, and you now stand up to say, no, you can't do this because that right is there, 95% of the time, you are likely to get out of that situation. That's exactly how it is with the peoples of Nigeria today. Their sovereignty have been confiscated by brigandage, and the remedy that is available to them today is called the right to self-determination. The Constitution of the Unitary Constitution of Nigeria was made in negation, in confiscation of that right, because it is their exclusive right to make the constitution by which they federate. So if you throw away what they agreed upon in Lancaster House and you impose the one that Murtala Mohammed and his co-murderers imposed on all of us, and you think you're going to build your edifice of Nigeria, that's why Nigeria is at the bottom on the global stage. If you think you are going to build on that foundation and it will become Nigeria the Great, that is why, let the rest of Africa hear it. The reason Nigeria is disgracing the black man all over the world is because the Constitution of Nigeria is a fraud. Everything that you see happening in Nigeria is mandated by that constitution. Those who suffer from it have a right to remove themselves, to recover their sovereignty and carry on with their lives outside the union of death that unitary Nigeria has become for them. We're not talking about the Federation of Nigeria that died. If it is the Federation of Nigeria that we have to rework today, that we have to fix today, that we have to repair today, I will be the first on that construction site. But if it is the unitary Nigeria that you are building on the foundation that injured me, on the foundation that sucked my blood, I tell you, I owe it a duty, an urgent duty, to destroy, to bring down that federation, that unitary Nigeria. And that is what this constitution has imposed on us. And so, let us look at these graphics again. There are 4 periods. You can see the clock. In that clock, you see in the position of 12, you see A. In the position of 3, you see B. In the position of 6, you see C. And in the position of 9, you see D. There are 4 periods. The period between A and B, between B and C, between C and D, between D and A. Where we are now is at that period A to B, as at 16th of December in 2020. We had worked for 20 years from 1999 to speak to the victims of this unitary Nigeria across the south and middle belt and elsewhere, including the upper north. Buhari, that is now loafing around after messing everybody up and everything up for 8 years as president. Buhari was part of the Fulani delegation that came to Pronaco in 2005, 2006, before he went to run for election in 2007. He came to, get us, he came to plead with us to come with him so that if he becomes president, he will then implement what we agreed to take Nigeria back to being a federation. Today, he's carrying on as if, and when he became president, he was carrying on as if he had never heard about what was wrong with the union, why people were clamoring for restructuring. Saad Abubakar, that is now doing inter-religious, interfaith, whatever, the harmony. How can you build harmony on a foundation of such a grave injustice as we have now? Hassan Kuka, you are looking for peace on a foundation. You and Absalam Abubakar, combine yourself to become a chairman and coordinator of a peace committee on a foundation of injustice. The constitution under which elections are conducted guarantees the negative outcomes we see. Why can't you, in the name of, you wear the cassock pretending to be the man on behalf of God on the scene? Why are you building peace on a foundation of injustice? Hassan Kuka, working with the Absalam Abubakar that imposed that falsehood on everybody, that is killing people in millions, chasing Nigerians in all directions across the world. And so by 2020, after 20 years from 1999, we have built sufficient consensus against that against that fraud called the 1999 Constitution. We have built sufficient consensus against the enforcers of that Constitution. And it is a consensus of the victims. The peoples of Nigeria are the victims of unitary Nigeria. Now, we rolled out a proposition. We declared a union dispute. That is what that Constitutional Force Majeure is all about. We declared an emergency. We declared an emergency on that subject of the seizure of our sovereignty, on that subject of the confiscation of our lands into a union of death. We declared an emergency and a union dispute. We say, yes, there's a country. We are not saying there's no Nigeria anywhere. We are saying, yes, there's a country, but we do not have a union. There are two different things. We have a country, we do not have a federation. Meaning that the discussion we should have had as various peoples, as different peoples, distinct peoples that could be countries of their own, because our sovereignty accrued to us on account of our land, our ancestral spaces, our distinct nationalities resident in our ancestral spaces. Our sovereignties accrue to us. And so if they got hijacked, like the British hijacked in 1914, like Absalam Abubakar and Co. continue the hijack by decree number 24 of 1999. As Obasanjo and his principal, Murtala Mohammed, hijacked between 1975, that they got Rotimi Williams and Ben Nwabeze to go and draft constitution that was not to be discussed by anybody. Of course, they called the Constitutional Assembly that juggled things around for them, but somehow in September of, let those who wish to verify go and find out whether on the 21st of September in 1978, Olusegun Obasanjo, as a military head of Nigeria, did not announce 17 amendments to the finished work of the Constitutional Assembly. That was where they threw away all of what the people discussed and reinstated what Murtala Mohammed on behalf of the Caliphate wanted. 21st September 1978, Olusegun Obasanjo toppled the finished work of the Constitutional Assembly. So anybody, including lawyers particularly, anybody who will tell you that 1979 Constitution was a product of a Constitutional Assembly of the people of Nigeria, tell such a person that Tony Nadi says is a criminal, because it's so easy to verify, and we've said it so many times in the public space. And so we come back to what was it we did in 2020 December 16 to now 2024 December 16 being the 4th anniversary. And it is at the point of this 4th anniversary that we first celebrate the demise, because the strategic objective for the union dispute we declared by way of that Constitutional Force Majeure, the objective was to take down that 1999 Constitution in an orderly manner. In that orderly manner, there will be a transition if a majority of the people who are living in the hell Nigeria has become, if all of us will in one accord, that's what we describe as joint jailbreak. If in one accord we say, this constitution is not of our making, it has our signature in forgery, it has injured us in every possible way anybody can suffer injury, whether it is our economic assets that are detained, or the exclusive right of the enemy to possess all the guns in the land and use as they will, or the corruption that the instrument authorizes, or the immunity it confers on those who will take the money from the treasury. The president, the 36 governors have immunity, and they are the ones who sign out all the money. They do not owe you any obligation according to that constitution. Go and see what is in section 6, subsection 6C. The citizens are not owed any obligation by the government. Government does not owe you the school, the hospital, the right to equal treatment, and even the one that they say is the primary duty of government, welfare and security of the citizen. The chapter 2 that has all those things for the citizen is rendered, discretionary to the government by section 6, subsection 6C. Go and find out any lawyer who tells you any other thing. Tell him he's illiterate. Tell him he's dishonest. That the Nigerian state does not owe you any obligation. The pretense that they do owe you that obligation has become the trade of those lawyers who go to EFCC, who go to election petition, instead of joining in this discussion about the constitution by which Nigeria is convened, by which Nigeria is defined, by which Nigeria is governed. Three different things. Because when you hear government of the people, by the people, for the people, there are always those three elements. The constitution, there's the union question, the structure question, and the system question, in that order. If you don't take up the union question, then you find Sunday Igboho and the rest of the Yoruba nation crowd saying they don't belong here. They don't know what they're talking about. You will find the ones doing Biafra, waving Biafra flag to say that it is the union question they are raising. It is the union question they are raising. Then you go to the question of the structure, the terms of that union. When you see the Niger Delta agitation saying resource control, by what mechanism did the oil and gas become the property of Medebribe in Maiduguri? Or the oil and gas of Bayelsa belonging to Jigawa, like we had one lunatic saying on national TV. And so these are the issues. Those three items, they are like the roots of a tree, the trunk, and the foliage. They are like the foundation of a building, the vertical column, and the roof. You hear about people who overheat the polity. The polity is that foundation upon which the union is anchored. That's the constitution. The politics is the management of that enterprise. That's where you see elections and all of the INEC and everybody how do people come to be the managers of that enterprise in that period? It is as dictated by the constitution. So if you have not settled the question of constitution and you jump into free and fair election, like here many demented people go to canvass, free and fair election under a constitution of apartheid, rule of law under a constitution of apartheid, any lawyer that goes to TV in Nigeria to say that rule of law, his campaign for rule of law, or the rule of law is failing, under this constitution you can't have rule of law in a constitution of impunity. What else do you need to see to know that it is so? Look at what is going on in Ekiti. Look at where it's coming from. And look at the madness that is being celebrated all over the place. But that matter is going to bring open all the rots in all the systems that make up that Nigeria. And so back to our illustration. In 2020, we declared this dispute and we offered a 5-point proposition for how to settle it. There's nobody else, the government, the patriots, and all the people who have come with the Fakbonda group and what are those their names? All of those that come to say, oh, restructure, we do it this way and not that way. The NINAS 5-point proposition is the only proposition on the table that identifies the problem in specificity. The Unitary Constitution of Nigeria, that identifies the solution to decommission that constitution, that identifies the mechanism for applying that solution, that is to suspend the elections, go into transition to rework that constitution. That's the mechanism for that decommissioning. The number 4 of the proposition is a strategy for activating that mechanism, to say, look, let the victims of this constitution insist that they won't go to another election as a mark of their rejection of that constitution, and therefore be the ones to come in a 2-stage procedure to work out the replacement. It is not the business of National Assembly. The question of constitution making is far beyond the mandate, the legislative mandate of National Assembly. Anybody in the National Assembly who is discussing constitution on your behalf is holding on to your sovereignty, and they're telling you they now own you. They are now the owners of the sovereignty. That you voted at the election it has become reason why they are now the owners of your lives. They can decide what will happen to you, whereas you are the one who sent them on an errand, and they went and joined the enemy to wreck you, to kill you, and share your blood. That is what they do every month in Abuja. They're sharing your blood. And so in the 5th proposition, we say a time-bound announcement. What we're inviting the peoples of Nigeria to do today is to adopt those 5 points of proposition, because that is what will take the matter from start to finish where we are now. There's nothing that is going to stop those who are tormenting you from carrying on in 2027. Is it the police that will repent and come and join you in how to topple them in election? Is it the INEC that have been sharing with them for many years that will repent and now begin to count your vote? Is it this judiciary we have seen that is going to repent and now declare the truth, declare the law? We've seen that they have gone worse than they have ever been. And so all of what you need to bring about any change, if you don't define it by yourself, you have to define the change. It's not enough to come and say, oh, we want change, oh, we want revolution. What is it that has to be done to bring about that change? What is it that has to be done to compel the renegades that are now have hijacked the powers of state? In an election, we saw how it went. And this address goes to all of those who subscribe to that constitution, who subscribe to elections under that constitution, because their stupidity has led us to where we are now, in which millions of people are distressed. That stupidity, by that small number, has become the reason 230 million people can perish. Their life is already ruined. Many are dying off. Others are running away to even more serious danger than Nigeria is. You saw the ones in Libya. You saw the ones going to Asia. You saw the ones that managed to get to UK. They are telling them now that they have to be deported. They have to be taken to Rwanda or wherever. Go to the US and see the pandemonium. But all of us, home and abroad, who suffer because we are Nigerians, whose passports have become a badge of shame, this address applies to all of you. The diaspora, the Nigerian diaspora, we are talking about the constitution that is worse than apartheid. You are busy organizing yourself in how you come and vote. Vote the votes of the millions of people at home. What has it amounted to under this constitution? Why can't you join that discussion of how we get rid of this constitution? The South Africans in the days of apartheid, who were overseas, everybody was on one subject. How do we get rid of apartheid constitution? But today you are not involved in the discussion of getting rid of that constitution. You are talking about how to come and vote, how to come and, all of you belong to one party or the other. We see you come in and go. You fly in for party conventions. You partake, you are party chairman of which party under which constitution? Under which constitution? We ask you. What is the value of your education if you cannot sit down and make an analysis of what the problem is? Can you cure an ailment if you have not diagnosed it? And so we invite you to this. If you have not read that force majeure, particularly the 5-point proposition, you get on whatever search engine, Google, whatever. Go to the website www.ninasvoice.org. Search for, just type force majeure. It will come up in many headings. Go and read that 5-point proposition so you can see what we're talking about. So we come back to our illustration. At that point in 2020, where we came out with that union dispute and the 5-point proposition, declaring that emergency, we began with enlightenment of the people to say, look, this is what has happened, this is what we can do. In the period between that A and B, you can see that the 20-year process deployed, against the Unitary Constitution had gained traction amongst those who didn't know. So by the time we were going to station B, they were now saying, oh, this constitution, everywhere, even in marketplaces, everywhere you go, you will see that people are discussing constitution. They may not be able to explain it the way we're explaining it, but it is the constitution that they now know that the constitution is the problem. The only thing they need to know next is that the operators of that constitution are the reasons the constitution has survived for this length of time, even with all of what we have done. We have delegitimized it. Nobody is able to say now that the constitution is not the problem, apart from characters like Peter Obi, who only him knows, because he first said that Nigeria is like a vehicle without engine. How did he turn around now to begin to load people into that vehicle without engine? And look at where he dumped them in February of 2025. They came out, they voted in overwhelming numbers for him. So we go from that point of that consensus in that B to where in C we are now asking them to come with us in rejecting further national elections under that constitution, particularly in 2027, so that as they reject that election on account of their rejection of that constitution, there's no other thing anybody can do than the transition to work out the alternative. Otherwise, everybody, the union stands dissolved under the constitution of a forgery, of a fraud. And so, if our people will listen to us now, before the politicians come telling them what magic they are going to perform in 2027, if they vote them, the only thing remaining to stop this madness after this many years is for our people to say, we will not go to another election under this constitution. We insist on a transition now. And if we're not getting into that transition to rework the constitutional architecture of this union, then to your tent, everybody must go. That is what will take us from station C into station D. Because once we arrive at the arrival in station D, that is, once election of 2027 is rejected as a strategy for taking down that constitution, then we go into the transition itself. That's between station D, as if going back to A. But going back that the joint jailbreak, we will either then become a independent units of successor state entities, or a confederation, or a proper federation. That is what will happen by choice, by referendums and plebiscites, by negotiations, by identifying all of those. That's what the only thing between D and the A again is just that reconstruction. So our task is to move things from where they are now to enforce that consensus against that constitution, against the enforcers of that constitution. That is what NINAS will be inviting everybody to from this 4th anniversary, because everything we wondered about had happened. The election had gone the way it's gone. The outcome has plunged us into a deeper mess. And if we don't do something to halt it, we're getting into deeper waters in a vessel that is leaking from all sides, with a captain and crew that are drunken sailors are sailing you in rickety ship into troubled waters. We stop there.